Well, welcome to the Real God small group study. We're getting going together. Normally, Jim and I would do this together, but on this very first one, I just wanted to thank you so much for jumping in, for some of you taking a risk, opening your home, or grabbing a book and saying, you know something, I'm going to focus with zeal and passion. I really want to know you, Lord, and so I'm going to seek you. So, first of all, congratulations. And now I want to give you just a little action plan just to kind of get your group started. Some of you know each other for years. Others, this is like a very first time. Some of you came down front and you find yourself in a group and it's like, wow, these are strangers, but they love the Lord and you're going to have a great, great time. So, let me give you a little acronym about your time that I think will really help you and set some real basic kind of ground rules. Lord willing, your facilitator did a little training with Jim, and he just does a fabulous job. But let's take just the acronym ACTION, and let me just give you a few tips, what I think will make this very first time together positive. The A is for atmosphere. It's just really important that it's a safe place, that whatever is shared in your group, it stays in your group. It's important too that even in the environment, sometimes you meet in different places. If you happen to be in a home, I've been places where, like the couch is here and the other one is all the way at the other end of the room. Atmosphere is about what creates the kind of place where people connect and feel free and feel safe. And so I encourage you, get around a table or move couches a little bit closer together. People share and get about as connected as the proximity of distance. And so I would encourage you, think about the atmosphere, where you're going to sit and why. I would think too, atmosphere-wise, if you're meeting at a coffee shop, grab a cup of coffee, have a little small talk. If you're meeting in a home, then it's this tender balance of, as people come in, hey, great to have you here, kind of take your coat, even if you have coffee, sodas, water, something that's just, don't at all feel like you've got to create food and snacks and all that. Do whatever you want, but I think the best thing is where people feel comfortable. It's an atmosphere where, someone did a little planning, and what we're going to do as we talk with one another is there's no pressure. We're not ranking anybody spiritually. No one's going to be said, you're going to pray or you're going to do this. It's going to be, hey, let's kind of chill. Let's get to know one another and let's sort of move in this together. So the second thing after atmosphere is this first time, the goal is to see, action, AC, is to connect. And so it's very important. We're going to study the real God. You have this very first one. Many of you have been to the service, but this has started so soon you haven't read those first 3 chapters, all pretty short. But what you really want to do is find out a little bit about him. And Jim has put some great kind of icebreaker questions. And, just, again, you don't have to share your deepest thoughts, but, a little background, family, if you have a family, I'm single, I'm from so-and-so. But just what you want to do is create some time where, hey, you connect. And we connect around things that are spiritual, but interests, work, technology, sports, whatever. But what you want to do is just find some commonality. And here's the balance on this. You can allow this to become the whole group this first time. And, oh, this is fun. We'll get to this later. But you want some time to connect. But if you're the facilitator, or if you're someone that kind of watches and feels the group drifting, someone needs to say, hey, in light of our time, we sure want to get into the study. And so you want to connect, and then you want to move to the next level. The third one is just time. ACT, time. As hard as it is, start on time, end on time. You say, oh, but everyone hasn't shown up. If you keep waiting till everyone shows up, then the person who's the latest begins to determine the group. And if you start at 7 and I'm there at 7, and we chit chat a little bit, and maybe there's a 10-minute leeway or 12 or something, and we do a little bit of sharing. If someone doesn't roll in till 7:25, 7:30, and I find pretty soon that, oh, you're going to wait till everyone shows up. Well, I'm not coming at 7 either then. And so you really need to, you don't have to be legalistic about it, but you're going to start on time or really close. And I would be legalistic about the ending time. If it's 7 to 9 or 7 to 8:45 and people have lots going on in their life, really gear your time where you stop. Now, you may say to people, if you want to hang around, have a second cup of coffee or hang out a little bit, that's fine, but we are over. We're done. It's been great, and we're going to start on time. And what that'll do is that'll help people know they can plan and know that, man, this is going to be a good time, but I'm not going to have these people, and especially if you're over at someone's house, like they have to go to work the next day, I don't want to interfere with the Spirit's work if something deep and amazing happens. But if you come over to my house at 7 and you leave at 10:30, after about 3 sessions, I'm thinking, I'm not so sure I should have signed up to do this. So, let's start on time, end on time. Obviously, let your host be the guide, but you can hang around a little bit, but be sensitive to one another. The I is for ACTI, is invite. Every person in your group, every one of you knows someone that they really need to know who the real God is, even if they're an unbeliever. You would be so surprised if someone who's invited into a warm environment, we're going to talk about God. We want to discover who he really is. And, we're reading this book. If you're willing to read along, and you don't even have to come to the weekend services, but we'd love to have you. I just think amazing things happen when, especially the first 2-3 weeks at least, you keep the group open and see what God will do. You just might start with 2 and end with 5, or you might start with 6 or 7 or 8, and pretty soon you got 15 people in the room, and that's not bad. But what we'll learn how to do is we'll subgroup, and so you might talk about the content and in the big group, and then say there's 15 people, and then 5 people go to the living room, 5 people go to the family room, 5 people go out on the patio, and you keep the groups of discussion from the heart. You keep those pretty small, because if you don't have time to talk, if you don't get to share, small groups really don't work. This has to be where we're going to do life together, and we get to know each other. And so the next one is O, ACTI. I can spell this, O. And the O is on task. And this is the balance of connecting is you need some time, hey, how'd the week go? And last time we talked about this, and maybe, so-and-so's child was really struggling, and, we prayed, hey, how's he doing, or how's she's doing? And so, there's that first 15 minutes, and there's time where it's really relational, but we're here to study the real God. Don't allow your group to have an hour of, wow, this is so neat, just getting to know each other, and then the last 20 minutes is, oh, I guess we ought to study a couple things. That's another thing, that if I've come and I really want to hear what's going on, I'm not going to stick around if we don't stay on task and do the study. That doesn't mean you have to cover every question. I love the way Jim has laid it out, where these are the big things we want to cover. And if you're facilitating, you might in advance go through and say, okay, we've got 6 questions here. If something would happen, question 1, question 3, 4, and 6, we've got to cover. And depending on time, I could flex maybe on something. But you want to stay on task. And by the way, that means you're always going to have someone in your group, all right? Someone in your group is takes you off task. That someone is gifted to do that. They just belong in the group to say, oh, I heard about this, and that reminds me of a time when my grandfather told my grandmother about, her dad who came from the old country and all of a sudden you see this pattern, and you just need to say, hey, oh, Sally, that is such an interesting story, and maybe you could share that later. But I think for our study time, we just kind of need to stay on track, and gently, but sometimes I've been in groups where people try to be so polite, and then you just let people take the group off on these, tangents, and then what happens is people say, that's happened the last 2 times, I'm not going to go back a 3rd time. So you can be kind, but say, we're going to agree this is kind of how we're going to do our group. And the reason I'm giving you this action plan is no one has to be the bad guy. I'm doing this right now, right? So, you can say, oh, hey, remember Chip that very first time he said stay on task, our action plan? We need to stay on task. And people are 99% of the time, they're great. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, I'll share that story another time. So A is for atmosphere. C is for connection. T is for time. I is we're going to invite people the first 2 or 3 weeks. The O is for on task. And the N is it's about need. A question that you need to ask out loud or at least be aware of. Every person should be in the group is asking, as you look around this room, what does that person need most in their life? What do they really need? And you may actually even ask that question. And, some groups have been together and will feel free to verbalize. Others, that might be too personal for the first time. But you need to be asking in your heart as you look around the room, what does that person need? Encouragement? A tank of gas? A little tiny bit of knowledge about something? Support? Someone to go to the hospital with them? I mean, the goal is not just that we say, oh, we studied the real God, right? The goal is that we are doing life in community, we're studying who God is, and then we're responding as God would lead in love for one another. And I just find that God always meets us at our point of need. And so a great opportunity is just to simply ask, what does this person need? What do I perceive? And feel free to ask them. And then we don't have to make a big deal about it, but let's meet each other's needs. Let's just love people where they're at. And I will tell you, you'll see something happen in the life of this group where your heart will be refreshed, your mind will get sharper as you grow, friendships and relationships will be probably way better than you dreamed. And you might have a little bump here and there. Conflict's not bad. And, it's just how we're going to handle those things. So this first time, I just want to encourage you to make it a group of action. People that I've got the list, great atmosphere, get deeply connected, start on time, end on time, invite others to the group, stay on task, and really look, what are the needs in this group and how do we help them? So hope that's helpful, and I just pray you have a super time. I am so excited about this journey of discovering the real God and how He longs for us to see Him. Hey, keep pressing ahead, and look forward to a little small group session next week.